Here is why you should not turn off your paid ads in Q1. I hear that a lot. Hey Justin, should I just stop my ad spend? Should I lower ad spend in Q1? What should I do? Should I just not run ads for January and then see how my month is going to be and then decide if I'm going to spend some more in February? Well, I'm here to answer these questions and to tell you why you should not stop running ads in early Q1 and what are the reasons essentially for me telling you this. So if you don't yet know who I am, my name is Justin. I'm the founder at paidadvertising.com, an e-commerce growth firm having spent profitably over $12 million on ads in the last 3 years, and we've worked with over 70 partners. And with that said, those are the learnings that I was able to compile in this short YouTube video. So let's get straight into it. Why you should not turn off ads in Q1. Well, number one, very straightforward. My number two reason you're going to see is a lot more packed than this one, but it's a surefire way to have a bad month. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to have a bad month, so let me make the one move that is going to reduce my new customers and overall revenue that therefore is going to impact my revenue even further, right? It's like, this is, if you want to have a bad month, stop ads. This is, again, a surefire way to have no sales coming through, or at least a lot less sales, right? So that's kind of the first thing. It's kind of an intuitive claim, but I just wanted to get that out of the door because that's one of the first things I always say. But this one is the true main reason I'd say why you should not turn off ads in Q1 and where the bulk of this video is going to be focused on. It'll bite you back down the line, some way, somehow, in various ways, and I want to outline some of these ways in this video. So I say LTV loss right here, which I'll explain a little further down, but for most, the effects you won't potentially instantly come, right? Because what ends up happening is that some of those brands are heavily reliant on paid ads. So some brands, if you stop paid ads, you quite frankly have no revenue coming in, and you're very much focused on like customer acquisition. I'm thinking dropshipping brands as an example. If you have no customers coming in, typically like you're not making money, so you'll feel the effects immediately. So typically those are the brands that aren't stopping ads because they know about that. They know that there's an immediate pain following that decision. Others essentially typically have other ways of marketing: organic, influencers, PR, email. And they're thinking, well, if I stop ads, like I'm still going to be making some money, right? So I should just stop ads right now. And this is where it becomes very dangerous, because instead of falling off a bike, hurting your knee immediately, seeing the blood on it and being like, oh wow, I need to solve that. It's like you have this small fracture in the bones, which you don't really feel immediately, but then as you keep putting more pressure on your knee with the months and years to come, and then at some point, bang, it breaks. Obviously, that's a hypothetical scenario, but I'm just saying that's what ends up happening, is that you create a fracture that's hard to see on the surface, but that will be seen as time goes by. And I'll kind of give you some of these ways that you'll see that in the future. So number one, it'll look like something like this. First and foremost, when you stop running ads, you stop new customer acquisition, or at least at scale new customer acquisition. So you miss out on an entire cohort of new customers that would have been acquired in that time period. All right, therefore, new customer revenue immediately goes down, which means your returning customer revenue goes up in the short term. But then as the months go by, your returning revenue also goes down, because you didn't acquire these customers, so they can't return if they never came on in the first place. Which then means that email marketing revenue typically lowers, because this is where your returning customers are. This is what feeds off of the traffic on your website, which usually comes from the ads. So email now goes lower. And then somehow you're left wondering why you're having a rough year or a rough Q4, which Q4 is entirely dependent on all of the ad efforts done throughout the entire year. Because the more ads you run in the year, the more you grow organically, right? The more ad spend you have, the more followers you have organically. Always. There's a direct correlation between the two because people snoop around. Facebook and TikTok, most paid social platforms, are known for having a multiple touch points in its attribution cycle, which is why, and I'm not really going to go in depth into this video, but if you look at platforms like Triple Well as an example, and their total impact or linear all attribution models, they'll allow you to see that most of the sales from paid social are assisted, which means somebody, yes, saw a Facebook ad, but it's very rare that somebody sees one ad on Facebook. They don't know about your brand. They're like, oh, wow, it's a nice new brand. Let me click on the ad, click and buys. For most brands, that's about a third to a fourth of the sales, but there's usually other touch points involved. Like, okay, now it's great. This brand looks legit. Let me go take a look at their Instagram. I'll browse the Instagram and I'll be like, okay, let me go take it to Google. Then I'll go like Google the brand name and try and search up like, what are people saying about this brand, right? So those sources get affected if you're not running ads, because these ones entirely depend on the paid social platforms, which I'll get to again in a second. Now, going to this other list of reasons. That's what it looks like from a customer cohort perspective. Let me take this December 2022 cohort because Triple Wall essentially wasn't really active back then, but December 2022 essentially acquiring 900 customers. Great, okay, for that brand. So month one, essentially, or month zero, so from the moment they're acquired, AOV is at about 123 pounds for that brand. Great, let's keep going. Month two, that's 128 pounds for that customer, which means they've really bought about like 5 pounds more worth of stuff, which means, let's say in this case, 901 customers that you've acquired that each spent 5 additional pounds on their second month with you, means that's roughly, let's just round it up, about 4,500 pounds in extra revenue that you have on month two that you would have never made if you didn't acquire these customers on month one. Then let's keep on going. From essentially right here, from this other month to this new month now, that's a total of, so 128, that's about 3 pounds. If we take it from the start, that is 8 pounds more. Once again, 8 times 9. Now at this point, that's a total added revenue of about 7,200 pounds, or about 3,000 pounds or so extra on that other month from what was on month two. And it keeps on compounding like that. Like every month, this is for that client, thousands of pounds in revenue that wouldn't come through if it wasn't for the acquisition done the month prior, right? And that's the compounding effect, which allows you. Triple unfortunately removed that. They used to have that feature and I used to love it. They had a counter way back in the day, and I think it was glitchy, which is why they removed it. But they had a counter that used to show you, if I stop ads today, how long does it take for my brand to get hypothetically to about $0 in revenue? And it show you, is it a year? Is it a year and a half? Is it 2 years? But they showed that counter that showed like how long it took for a brand's revenue to start going down, all the way to 0 essentially. But you can see that through cohorts, which you'll see, right? Typically, all in all together, that cohort that was acquired in December 2022 through the next year, through their entire lifetime, right? They started off at 117 pounds. They ended the year at 155 pounds, which, to have done the quick math on my side, means there's about 38 pounds added in revenue in the span of a year that would have never happened if, again, these customers weren't acquired in the first place. 38 pounds times almost 1,000 customers is 38,000 pounds in revenue over an entire year that would have been lost and gone just because we stopped ads for 1 month. So that's, again, just kind of letting you know what are the impacts of overall revenue in a year's time. Now, this one too, I've seen it because I've done it. So one of our clients, and I made a separate video about that, decided to stop Facebook ads for a given period of time. Essentially, they said, hey, for all of October 2023, let's just stop Facebook ads. I want to see what's going to end up happening. This was just the short term of this impact. This was just short term what ended up happening for the brand. First of all, total revenue, of course, was down 40% because ads were a big part of the revenue. So, all right, total revenue is down 40%. But then, okay, now you're going to look at ad spend. You're going to say, well, ad spend also went down 45% because now they were just spending on Google ads. All right, great. So almost proportional revenue going down to the amount of ad spend. Sure, but then look at net profit. Net profit was down 36%, right? Which means ads, when they were running, they were quite profitable. And then new customer revenue down 40%. So same example as earlier. These guys acquired 40% less new customers in that time period, which means two things. Which means these customers won't come back because they were never acquired essentially. So they won't make more money in the year. And this means they're still advertising on Google as an example in this case, which means they're still tapping into their existing customers and they're forcing their existing customers to return faster if you want, instead of focusing on acquisition. All of a recipe for disaster in the future. So now other impacts that we have, because I've mentioned that earlier, there's impacts on SEO and organic traffic, because I've said it again, most people from paid social have an assisted conversion, which means there's at least 2 touch points essentially in that conversion. Typically, it's 3 to 4 touch points I found being the average. So somebody finds one ad, and once again, they'll click on the profile, they'll snoop around. Well, if there's not that initial touch point or awareness to be created, right, going in front of somebody new, they won't funnel down organically, nor will they search for you on Google. And I'll just jump ahead of myself real quick right here, but for most of our clients, the Pearson correlation coefficient on triple wall between Facebook ad spend and Google ad ROAS is always above 0 for every client that I've seen. So, which means there's a direct correlation between Google ad ROAS and Facebook ad spend. Typically, in that case, this is one of our clients, and I had another video in the past, which was actually even higher than that. It was 0.75, but here, that means, in other words, that if I increase Facebook ad spend, by 10%, that means that my Google ad ROAS will go up by 4.8%. So the more I spend on Google, or the more I spend on Facebook, the better my Google ads look, which means the less I spend on Facebook, the less, or the worse my Google ads look, right? So going back right here, more ad spend, more followers equals more organic reach, which is pay to play, which truly is the name of the game, right? So that's that. Now, this other one, which I think is one that is less tangible, but nonetheless ends up happening. I keep saying that in a lot of videos, but people don't buy from the best brand. They buy from the brand they remember the quickest. If people can't remember you, they won't buy. Not because they don't like you, just simply because it's like, you're not top of mind. So many other guys are. If you're not advertising, other guys are. It's not just a common truth, you know, it's not like everybody in the space is like, all right, we're stopping to advertise right now. Everybody's going to stop advertising and then we'll see you in a month. No. If you're not advertising, somebody else is, which means they're getting this brand recall. So what I mean by that is like the more regular interaction somebody has with your brand, the more often they see you, the more often they get emails from you, which oftentimes is facilitated through ads, builds that long-term relationship with the customers. They bought and then they still see new ads and then it's ads targeted for them and then it makes sense and then they're like, oh yes, I love this brand, I just got the product, but I'm still seeing them, great, they're top of mind, they'll buy. They're more likely to buy. I showed that once again earlier, but like literally just that same client, first order average order value, right, is 117 pounds. And in month 0, so within the same month of them actually purchasing for the first time, the AOV, or the lifetime value of that customer, bumps up by roughly 6 pounds, which means that some of these customers are buying a second time in the first month, either because they're like, oh wow, this product is so great, let me get a second one, or it could also be due to returns. But just to let you know, like the lifetime value nonetheless still goes up, right? So now going back right here, stopping ads can quickly lead to a decrease in brand visibility, which makes it harder for your customers to remember or recognize the brand when they are ready to purchase. The last and final reason that I think you should not turn off ads in early Q1 is the following. It places you at a disadvantage with the algorithm, because if you turn off your campaigns on, let's say, Facebook or TikTok, the algorithms typically favor consistency and the success of an advertiser. It's a flywheel. The more consistent you are, the more data the platform has, which the more they'll reinforce your campaign. And the better a campaign does, well, Meta is all the more so incentivized to show your ads to more people, because if you're making money, it means that you'll want to spend more money back on Facebook. And it's this flywheel of success. The better a campaign does in terms of ROAS, typically Facebook will also favor you by pushing that campaign further. So if you look at this right here, a break in advertising resets their learning phase, and then which typically makes it harder to achieve any of those previous ad performances when you do start back those ads. Typically when you start back these ads after a pause, it's very challenging, because then in your mind, I don't know, I'm gonna throw numbers. You're used to getting a 3x ROAS. Your ego is set at 3x ROAS. So then you'll start back these ads and then you won't get a 3x from the start. You'll get like a 1.5, a 2. And then you're like, man, what is this? I gave so much money to Facebook and TikTok in the past. Why can't they help me? Like I just did a quick pause. And then you're gonna just struggle to get back up there. And you'll probably need to spend more than typical initially just to get back on the momentum and then get the sales flowing again, which ends up hurting you more than anything. So the lesson in this video is that if you feel like for some seasonal reason you're not doing as well in Q1, then perhaps lower spend, but don't stop it. Stopping it altogether is the worst thing you can possibly do for your brand. It will dramatically impact you. Again, it'll make sure that you will fail in the upcoming year. Like, this is a surefire way, as mentioning earlier, that you will not only have a bad month, but most likely a bad year. If you follow the 4 peak strategy, which means you should have 4 seasonal peaks in your year, one of these peaks has to be in Q1. Typically is around Valentine's Day or perhaps spring break, or right around that corner, right? So that is one more reason to not stop your ads, because if you do so, that peak usually won't be a peak. It'll just be a dent essentially in your revenue. So I hope you found some value in this video. If you are watching this video, you are an e-commerce brand owner wanting to partner with an e-commerce paid ads growth firm this upcoming Q1, click the link down below and book in a call to speak with our team. Today, we are Meta, Google, and TikTok partners, and we'd be more than happy to help you out with these 3 platforms. We handle what I call the 3 Ps, so performance creatives, paid media, and paid search. And with that being said, check out other videos on the channel for some more useful e-commerce growth marketing tips, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace.